The night in Los Angeles was cold, with chilly winds sweeping through the deserted streets. In a small diner tucked away on a quiet corner, Anna Myers, a 28-year-old waitress, was clearing the last table of her late-night shift. Exhaustion was written all over her face, but her eyes still shone with dedication and gentleness, like a tiny flame trying to stay alive in the freezing winter night. In the corner of the room, a man sat quietly, his baseball cap pulled low over his face. His head hung low, and his shoulders slumped, as if he were carrying the weight of the world. Nobody paid him any attention, and it seemed like that was exactly what he wanted. Anna caught a fleeting glimpse of his calloused hands as he pulled out money to pay the bill. There was a sadness in his eyes, something profound and indescribable. As the man walked out of the diner, Anna noticed his wallet lying under the chair. Her hands froze mid-motion. She could have just left it at the counter for him to come back and claim, but something deep within her urged her to act. Without a second thought, she grabbed the wallet and rushed outside, braving the icy wind that cut through her skin. "Wait! You forgot your wallet!" she called out, her voice trembling from the cold. The man stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at her. When Anna handed him the wallet, he tilted his head slightly, his deep eyes filled with both surprise and gratitude. After a moment of silence, he asked, his voice hoarse, "You didn't even look inside, did you?" Anna let out a soft laugh, her expression as natural as ever. "Why would I? It's yours." When he removed his cap, revealing a face the whole world recognized, Keanu Reeves, Anna was momentarily taken aback. But instead of acting starstruck or curious, she simply smiled. "I just wanted to make sure you didn't leave without it." Keanu took the wallet, his gaze full of unspoken emotion. "Thank you," he said quietly, almost in a whisper. "You have no idea what this means to me." Anna gave a small nod, not thinking much of it. To her, it was just a small act of kindness, something anyone would have done. But she had no way of knowing that this single act would change her life forever. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the worn curtains of Anna's tiny apartment, she walked into the diner as usual, her gentle smile still in place. But this time, the atmosphere felt different. Standing by the counter with a stern expression was her manager, Mr. Carson. "Anna, we need to talk," he began, his sharp tone stopping her in her tracks. "What's wrong?" she asked politely, trying to hide her unease. Carson took a deep breath, his gaze stern, as though preparing to deliver a harsh verdict. "I heard that you stepped outside during your shift last night. Do you realize that this is completely unacceptable?" Anna froze, her mind scrambling. "I only stepped out to return a wallet to a customer. He left it behind." "That's not the point," Carson interrupted coldly. "It doesn't matter who the customer was or what the reason is. We cannot have employees abandoning their stations. It reflects poorly on this establishment." Those words felt like a crushing blow to Anna's pride. She tried to explain, her eyes brimming with tears but filled with determination. "I just thought it was the right thing to do. If I hadn't returned the wallet, he could have been in serious trouble." "Anna, we don't need excuses," Carson interrupted, his tone cold and final. "My decision is made. You're fired." Her world crumbled in that instant. Anna stood frozen, her hands trembling as the harsh words echoed in her ears. A wave of injustice and heartbreak washed over her, leaving her numb. Quietly, she began packing her belongings. A small box with a few personal items, each carrying a memory of her time at the diner. As she walked out, it felt as though a part of her had been taken away, the part that believed in fairness and the meaning of kindness. When she stepped through the door, her eyes glistened with tears, not just because she had lost her job, but because she felt disappointed in herself for not being able to stand up for what she believed in. Anna sat motionless in her tiny apartment, the dim light from her old TV casting shadows on her worried face. Unpaid bills lay neatly stacked on the table. a constant reminder of the harsh reality she was now facing. Just then, the voice of a TV host broke through her spiraling thoughts. Keanu Reeves has just stunned the world with a heartwarming story about kindness and humanity. The name Keanu Reeves made Anna look up. Her heart began to race as she listened intently. On the screen, Keanu sat for an interview, his face carrying a mix of sadness and sincerity. "That night," he began, his deep voice full of emotion. "I had just come back from the hospital. My sister is battling cancer, and I felt completely helpless." He paused, his gaze distant, as if recalling a pain no one else could touch. "I didn't think I could get through that night. But then, a stranger, a woman whose name I don't even know, did something small yet incredibly meaningful. She returned my wallet without asking for anything in return. It was a pure act of kindness." Anna felt her chest tighten. She stared at the screen, her breath growing shallow. "Was that me?" she wondered, the thought sending a mix of pride and worry through her. Keanu continued, his eyes shining with deep gratitude. "In that moment, she reminded me that even in the darkest times, kindness can light the way. I don't know her name, but if she's out there, I just want to say, thank you. You restored my faith in humanity." His words crashed over Anna like a tidal wave. She sat still, tears streaming down her face. No one had ever told her that something she did could mean so much. But then, fear crept in. "He's looking for me?" she thought, panic and uncertainty taking hold. She worried that if Keanu learned she had lost her job and was struggling, he might feel disappointed in her. That morning in Los Angeles was colder than usual, the biting wind cutting through Anna's thin coat. She walked along the bustling streets, her head bowed low, as if trying to avoid the gaze of the world. After last night's news, her mind was in turmoil. What had she done that was so special? All she did was return a wallet. But now, thousands of people knew her story. And Keanu Reeves, a world-famous star, was looking for her. The thought left her feeling both overwhelmed and anxious. As Anna turned a corner near the park, a familiar warm voice called out from behind her. "Excuse me." She froze, her feet rooted to the ground. Her breath caught in her throat as she slowly turned around, her eyes meeting the gentle, heartfelt gaze of Keanu Reeves. "It's you, isn't it?" Keanu said softly, his voice carrying a palpable sense of emotion. "I've been looking for you." Anna couldn't find her words. In that moment, all the fear and worry that had consumed her seemed to melt away, leaving only astonishment. He stood there, not as a Hollywood icon, but as a regular man, someone genuinely seeking the person who had shown him kindness. I didn't think you'd recognize me," Anna stammered, her voice trembling. Keanu smiled gently, a smile so sincere it seemed to radiate warmth. "How could I forget? You helped me when I needed it most. I'll never forget that face." His words felt like a soothing balm to Anna's weary heart, washing away the bitterness and pain she'd been carrying. But reality came crashing back in all too quickly. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a notification from her landlord. "Your rent is overdue. If payment isn't made within 3 days, we'll issue an eviction notice." Her heart sank, and the worry immediately showed on her face. Sensing the shift in her expression, Keanu tilted his head, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his voice gentle and calming. Anna forced a smile, but the tears welling up in her eyes betrayed her. "I'm fine," she lied, her voice barely audible. Keanu stayed silent for a moment, studying her carefully, as though trying to see the truth she was so desperately trying to hide. "You don't have to tell me," he said gently. "But I can see something is troubling you. Let me help." Anna shook her head, tears now streaming down her cheeks. "No, I can't let you do that. I'm not someone worth your time or concern." But Keanu didn't waver. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his gaze unwavering yet kind. You didn't ask for anything when you helped me. So why can't I do the same for you? Anna stood motionless, her eyes fixed on the envelope Keanu had just placed gently in her hands. The cold wind still nipped at her skin, but the warmth in his eyes seemed to shield her from it, as though wrapping her in an invisible blanket of compassion. You don't have to open it right now, Keanu said, his voice low and gentle. But I want you to know that your actions changed my life. This is my way of saying thank you. Anna shook her head, her hands trembling as she held the envelope. I can't accept this. You've been through so much already. I don't deserve it. Keanu looked at her, a soft yet deeply emotional smile spreading across his face. Anna, this isn't about deserving or not. You don't realize it, but that night, you did more than just return a wallet. You gave me hope, something I thought I couldn't feel again. He paused, his gaze distant, as if searching through a painful memory buried deep within him. My sister, he continued, his voice heavy with emotion. She's battling cancer. That night, I had just come from the hospital, and to be honest, I wasn't sure how much more I could take. Anna felt her chest tighten. Her vision blurred as she imagined the weight of what he had endured. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Keanu went on, his voice now filled with a raw, heartfelt sincerity. I felt lost, completely adrift, and then you appeared, not as a fan or someone looking for anything in return. You were just kind. You reminded me that even in the darkest moments, there's still light in the form of kindness. Anna looked at him, tears streaming down her face. I never thought something so small could mean so much, she whispered, her voice trembling. It's the small things that make the biggest difference, Keanu replied, his eyes now conveying all the honesty and gratitude he carried in his heart. Keanu gently gestured for Anna to open the envelope. With trembling hands, she unfolded it. Inside was a check for an amount far beyond anything she had ever imagined. You didn't have to do this, Anna said, her voice choked with emotion. It's too much. I can't accept it. Keanu leaned slightly closer, his voice soft but resolute. You didn't just help me with your actions. You reminded me that kindness is the most precious thing we can give one another. This isn't about money, Anna. It's my way of showing how much your kindness meant to me. Anna gripped the check tightly, her heart flooded with conflicting emotions. Gratitude, overwhelm, and a lingering hesitation. But as she looked into Keanu's eyes, she realized this wasn't just a gesture of help. It was an expression of deep gratitude, a reminder that kindness is always repaid in ways we never expect. Even so, a sense of incompleteness lingered within her. Keanu, she softly called his name. You mentioned that night you came from the hospital. Your sister. How is she? Keanu fell silent for a moment, his eyes reflecting a deep, unspoken sorrow. She's still fighting, he said quietly, his voice filled with quiet determination. She's the strongest person I've ever known, and I'll do everything I can to be there for her. Anna tightened her grip on the check, her eyes meeting Keanu's. It wasn't just surprise she felt. It was a profound sense of empathy. Yet, deep inside, something urged her to do more. His care for his sister, the heavy look in his eyes when he mentioned the hospital, it all made her want to give back to him, just as he had given to her. Keanu, she began, her voice trembling slightly but filled with sincerity. I'm so grateful for this. But there's something small I'd like to do. Something I think you'll understand. Keanu tilted his head, his eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and warmth. What would you like to do? Anna smiled, a gentle but determined smile. Let me meet your sister. I want to thank her for making you as strong as you are. You didn't just help me, Keanu. You showed me that kindness is never meaningless. That afternoon, Anna accompanied Keanu to the hospital. The stark white hallways and the sharp scent of antiseptic made her throat tighten. Keanu walked slowly, as if carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. When they neared the hospital room, a nurse recognized him and offered a kind smile. "She's been waiting for you," the nurse said softly, her eyes full of understanding. Through the glass door, Anna saw a frail woman with pale skin, but her eyes shone brightly, like a small but resilient flame flickering against the wind. Keanu stepped in first, gently taking his sister's hand, his voice trembling slightly as he spoke. "Sis, this is the person I told you about." Anna walked in, her hands trembling slightly but her resolve firm. "Hello," she said softly. "I'm Anna. I just wanted to tell you that your brother is an incredible person, and because of him, I've found my faith in life again." Keanu's sister, Emily, smiled, a weak but warm smile. "No," she whispered, her voice faint but full of emotion. "You're the one who helped him find the light again. I should be thanking you, Anna." Anna sat by the bedside, and for the next hour, the three of them talked as if they were old friends. They shared memories, struggles, and even the smallest hopes they held onto in life. As evening fell, Anna stood to leave. Keanu walked her out into the hallway, his eyes filled with an emotion that was hard to put into words. "Anna," he said, his voice low and earnest, "you didn't just change my life. You showed me that even in the darkest moments, kindness can illuminate everything." Anna smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "And you showed me that sometimes, a small act can change someone's entire world." Keanu paused, looking deeply into her eyes. "I don't want this to be the last time we see each other." His words made Anna's heart flutter. "It won't be the last," she replied softly, a promise that needed no grand gestures but carried all the weight in the world. As Anna stepped out of the hospital, she felt a profound change within herself. She hadn't just found hope. She had discovered a connection she never thought possible. And as she looked up at the dark sky, the stars twinkling above her, she knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with meaning and possibility. Keanu stood by the doorway, watching her as she walked away, his heart filled with an unnameable feeling. He knew that fate had brought them together, not just to heal, but to create something greater than either of them could have imagined. Sometimes, it's the smallest acts of kindness that create the biggest ripples in our lives. Anna's simple gesture didn't just change her life. It reminded us all of the power of human connection, the beauty of compassion, and the strength we find when we lift each other up. As you reflect on this story, think about the small ways you can bring light to someone's life. Maybe it's a kind word, a helping hand, or just a moment of understanding. You never know whose heart you might touch, or how your kindness could echo into something much greater. If this story moved you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Together, we can spread more stories like Anna's, stories that inspire hope, love, and a little more kindness in the world. Let's keep the ripple going. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey of heartwarming tales that remind us of what truly matters. See you in the next story.